this game is going to be different because it's not the Super Bowl.
They're a great team. We understand that. All that's null and void if we don't prove it on Thursday night.
Fastball end zone. Kelvin Benjamin.
Welcome back, KB. Batted up in the air and intercepted by Thomas Davis.
Wow. Truck in right. Newton right pylon. Touchdown.
It's not my job to, question the official, but it's not fun getting hit in the head.
Here comes CJ. 3 blockers on front. CJ 15, CJ 10, CJ 5, CJ into the end zone. Touchdown, Denver. Kick up in the air and going to be intercepted. Chris Harris handed to CJ Anderson to the goal line. Denver touchdown. Snap placement. Kick on the way, and it is wide left. And the magic ain't done here at Sports Authority Field at Mile High.
Well, hello there. Happy Friday. We made it to the weekend. Welcome into First Take. Thank you so much for hanging with us. Stephen, just me and you?
This is a new experience
for
me.
Gosh,
I don't think
here.
well, yes, I feel you being touched. I get it. Because listen, I have never in my career been in studio on First Take. I've been the one out of studio my entire career. Max comes in 2 months on the job, not even 2 months on the job, and suddenly he's the one chilling in LA and I'm in Bristol. What the hell is wrong with this picture, Max?
The tables have turned.
What is wrong?
Best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Chocolatito's fighting out here. Nothing I can do about it.
I got you. Is he really?
Saturday
we got to talk about that one day. He's the best pound-for-pound. I got to talk to you about that later.
Yeah, well, I like Andre Ward as #1 pound-for-pound, but there's a consensus around Chocolatito right now.
I'm a Ward guy on that level, too, but we'll talk about that later.
Yes, we will. Max, good morning.
How you doing, Molly?
I'm good. I'm ready to go. And also coming up, Stephen A., you have a big announcement, which I'm really excited about.
Yes, I'm very excited about it. Don't worry. Top of the hour number 2, I will announce something that I think is going to be very, very, very good and very entertaining for a lot of folks out there.
Yes.
Stay tuned.
I'm excited.
First Take fans, you're going to like this one.
I know. I co-sign on that one, so please stay tuned. But we're going to kick things off with the season opener, of course. The champs beating the Panthers again with a 21-20 win in the Super Bowl rematch. Cam felt the pressure, taking a lot of hits last night, including some shots to his head that were not penalized. Cam's teammate Greg Olsen spoke after the game about that subject.
I know he's, the biggest guy in the field, but he's still the quarterback. And, we'll see what some of those look like. Obviously, we got one of them, but we didn't really gain any yards off of it, so I guess it is what it is.
Cam certainly took a lot of shots. What was your reaction?
My reaction is that it was an absolute travesty what I saw last night. I mean, listen. That last hit by Darian Stewart, listen, I'm not going to say he should be suspended because there's no history there. He's only been penalized twice, and it wasn't for, illegal hits or anything like that. Darian Stewart, he's earned the benefit of the doubt, so I'm certainly not calling for him to be suspended. But he definitely needs to be fined significantly. There's just no excuse for it. And when we look at what Thomas Davis had to say, what Greg Olsen had to say, they're absolutely right here. Cam Newton is 6'5", Max. 6'5". That's to hit him in the head. It's one thing when he's going down and there's a headshot that he ultimately incurs. It's another thing entirely when he's standing up, he's running, and all of a sudden you knock him upside his head. And by the way, I'm not talking about running plays because I understand when you are running the football, outside of the pocket and you're running upfield, calling running plays for Cam Newton, which, by the way, the Carolina Panthers should really rethink that strategy. I understand hits of that nature in that regard. But when you are scrambling in the pocket, when you are trying to get away from DeMarcus Ware, well, it is 1.5 sacks, of Von Miller, who had a sack as well, a key sack as of late in the game. When you're trying to get away from those guys and you're just scrambling outside of the pockets like a typical quarterback, and you see a guy like Darian Stewart literally lunge into him and knock him upside his head, I don't give a damn about the penalty being offset because of intentional grounding or whatever it is. That's nonsense. This is the quarterback position. We've heard the NFL we've seen the NFL go through extraordinary lengths, Mac, to bring attention to the need to protect football players, obviously overall, and in particular, the quarterbacks. Cam Newton is 6'5". He is 260, and there's no question in my mind that that has a lot to do with how he is being treated. He's basically being treated like he's the NFL's version of Shaquille O'Neal, when Shaquille O'Neal was playing in the NBA and could barely get a call because he's so dominant physically, et cetera, et cetera. That's what a lot of people are saying.
You reading my notes? Are you reading my notes?
No, not at all, obviously. But I don't buy that, Max. I don't buy that at all, and here's why. Because unlike Shaquille O'Neal, you're playing the game of basketball. They're trying to keep you from dunking the ball on their face, et cetera, et cetera. This is football. As a quarterback, you can do damage, but essentially you're at the mercy of the defense because they get to hit you, and unless you're running the football, you don't particularly get to hit them back. So there has to be some level of protection. If this was Tom Brady, he'd be protected. If this was Peyton Manning, he'd be protected. If this was Aaron Rodgers, he'd be protected. If this was Drew Brees, he'd be protected. If this was Big Ben Roethlisberger, they would be protected. Now, obviously, they're different kind of players, and I understand that because they relent a little bit. Not Big Ben so much, but the other guys relent. When pressure's oncoming, they really just concede to it and live to fight another day, whereas Cam will punish you. But I'm talking about specifically within the pocket. There is no reason on God's green earth why they got away with putting those hits that they put on Cam Newton last night. And there should be extensive fines. How he was not examined for concussion protocol throughout the game. Even though he was talking and all of that stuff, I don't want to hear it. There's something wrong with this picture, and the Carolina Panthers were right to bring it up.
I'm glad you brought up the point about the pocket because, well, when he's running the ball, he's a running back. When he's in the pocket getting ready to throw, he ain't a running back. But I want to make this very clear, and you anticipated my point there. Cam Newton is the new football Shaquille O'Neal. That's what's happening here. Cam equals Shaq. And that's not just because he's big. Lots of guys are big. It's because he's big and so dominant that the other team goes, well, what can we do? There's no way to stop this guy. I guess we're going to have to, quote unquote, bend the rules. And the officials, because they're human beings, also look at the and go, oh, my God, what can you do to stop that guy? I guess the opponents are going to have to do that. There's going to be some kind of looking away from these kind of things. It wasn't fair to Shaq. It's certainly not fair to Cam. And it speaks not only to the size, but the quality of Cam Newton's play. Now, there are two issues here. There's the safety issue, and there's the athletic issue. The athletic issue I just discussed. And then there's the safety issue. Shaq is playing basketball. When you bang down low, it's not the same thing as getting launched, helmet-to-helmet contact in the NFL.
That's right.
It's really dangerous. And sorry, rest of the world, if Cam Newton is so awesome physically that he is able to impose his physical gifts on the position. One of the reasons he's an elite Tier 1 quarterback, Stephen A., one of them, there are others, but certainly a big reason is his size, strength, and overall talent. He's able to impose himself physically on the game of football and at a position where you're not supposed to be able to do that. And yet he does it, and I think it's just kind of accepted practice at this point. You can treat him a little differently than you can treat others. It's not fair to Cam. It's not right, and it should stop.
It should stop. You're absolutely right. And here's the bottom line. It's not fair to him. And I'll tell you another reason why it's not fair, because you didn't bring this up, Max Kellerman. Let me tell you something. Cam Newton is a big boy for a quarterback. But he ain't a big boy compared to 300-pound, linemen coming at him, 285-pound linemen coming at him, linebackers that are 250 like locomotives coming at him. He's not that big to them. So when I look at it, I'm saying to myself, that's no excuse. It's no excuse to get away with doing this. The NFL has to step up. The officials have to step up, and they have to make sure that they protect this. This dude is a superstar in this league. Still Tier 2 in my mind, by the way, but a superstar nevertheless, because he's the reigning league MVP. Because as y'all well know, for me, Tier 1 are people who do it consistently.
Yeah, we know the
one-year wonders don't do it for me. I'm not going for that. Tier 1 are dudes that have a history of excellence, not 1 year of excellence. It's very simple. I don't know why I see camera people looking at me, you looking at me, Max Kellerman looking. I don't know what the hell is wrong with any of y'all. I speak fluent English. Tier 1 is consistency. More than 1 year, not one hit wonders.
You know what boggles my mind about that, Stephen A? You, of all people, you're a very common sense approach person.
I am.
So you mean to tell me if someone wins the Heisman Trophy turns pro, gets better and better, then plays at MVP level and is correctly awarded the MVP and takes his team to the Super Bowl. And then you just saw from him, by the way, last night, real toughness. Like, my issue with Cam last year is, Cam, everything's okay. I don't care. Dab, good. Sign balls, give them to kids. I love all that stuff. Jump on the loose ball in the Super Bowl, Cam. He showed such toughness last night. He reminded me of Eli Manning on the Super Bowl run where San Francisco, with that great defense, Eli had turf coming out of his helmet. It was twisted halfway around his head, but he stayed in there, gave his team a chance to win. Cam did the same thing yesterday. In spite of all the hits that you're talking about, in spite of the ankle, because it looked like, oh, my God, like, let's not forget now, for a minute there, everyone held their breath. What's going to happen to Cam? He comes back in the game. He leads his team to a position where a 50-yard field goal wins it. He led his team there. And by the way, they also kicked it and then got iced out and it didn't count and had to do it again. Like, he can't also kick field goals.
Well, listen,
I think if you look at Heisman Trophy winner, MVP, Super Bowl appearance.
Stop. I don't want to hear anything about. Hold on. I don't want to hear anything about a Heisman Trophy. He had 4 years in the NFL before last season. That's what I'm thinking about. I don't want to hear anything about what he did, years ago when he won the Heisman. I don't want to hear that. I'm talking about the 4 years prior to last year. That's all. But in the end, what it comes down to is that there's no denying that he's a superstar. There's no denying that he's big time right now based off of last year alone. And considering that and his marketability, it's a shame that the NFL didn't seem to be as protective for him last night as I happen to know they would have been for other star quarterbacks in this league.
Cosign.
Into that tune, the penalty called against Darian Stewart. The first time there was a roughing the passer penalty against a Panthers opponent when Cam's at quarterback since week 11 of the 2014 season, and that was against the Falcons. Let's get to the other quarterback, though.
Yeah.
Trevor Siemian. He had 178 passing yards, a touchdown pass, and 2 interceptions in his first start for the Broncos. Siemian's the first quarterback to lead a 10-point fourth-quarter comeback in his first career start since Josh Freeman in 2009. Stephen A., did Denver prove that they can win with Siemian?
I can't believe I'm saying this after just one game, but yeah, I must confess, I was quite impressed with this kid, Trevor Siemian. He showed a lot of poise. He can make the intermediate passes. He can throw the ball deep, Max. And when you consider Demaryius Thomas, who had a really good offseason from everything that I've heard, along with what Emmanuel Sanders can bring to the table, with C.J. Anderson, this is a Kubiak offense. One of the things that I underestimated here, I totally forgot about the troubles Kubiak had last year because his offense is different than what Peyton Manning wanted to run. And so when you look at it from that perspective, having to adjust to Peyton Manning's wishes, then ultimately Peyton Manning getting hurt or getting benched after his 4-interception performance against the Kansas City Chiefs, bringing in Brock Osweiler, having him perform for you for about 6 or 7 games, then getting Peyton Manning back in that game against San Diego. Denver went through a lot last year. Gary Kubiak had to work through a lot last year. And that's entirely different this go-round. They're the reigning defending Super Bowl champions. Their defense is on another level.
Right?
I mean, these brothers are something special. And even though I knew they would be, I just said to myself, where you going to get points from? Then I saw C.J. Anderson running the football. Then I saw Demaryius Thomas catching a pass. I saw Emmanuel Sanders catch 5 passes. I saw Demaryius Thomas catch 4 passes. I mean, I'm just looking at these guys. And Green, he had 4 receptions as well. I'm just looking at it, watching this game last night, and the poise of Trevor Siemian. I have to confess, I'm looking at Trevor Siemian and I'm saying, well, damn, he did look better than Peyton Manning looked last year. It's just one game. Nobody's trying to say he's going to be Peyton Manning. Nobody's trying to say he's going to be better than Peyton Manning. But the Peyton Manning that we saw last year wasn't the Peyton Manning that we saw for the previous 17 years. So as a result, Trevor Siemian is better than that, was better last night, rather, than that product we saw behind center for the Denver Broncos last season. And with this defense looking as much as it did, here's how far I'm willing to go. I was going to pick Kansas City to win the AFC West. I can't say that right now. I can't say that right now. Denver looks special.
I sold you.
Yeah, they did. And let me tell you the thing about Siemian that impressed me the most. He has improvisational ability. That not just in terms of reading what's there and figuring out what he needs to do in the moment that maybe is not scripted or maybe is not his first option, but the way he even gets rid of the ball at times when he slings it, sidearms it, whatever he has to do to make the play. Some of those screens to C.J. Anderson turned out like that. Also, Demaryius Thomas turned out like where you saw things from Siemian that said, that is an NFL quarterback who has the ability to get it done even when things aren't perfect, and they're rarely perfect. You look at Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. I'm not saying that they're the overall best receiving core, but I don't know that there's a 1 and 2 or 1 and 1A, because sometimes when you watch them, you go, are we sure Demaryius is better than Emmanuel Sanders? I don't know that there's a team that has 2 as good as those guys. You know, Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker are fine, but Eric, you know, as a pair, they're not as good as Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. And then the defense is special, not only because of the playmakers, and this is going to sound like corny, cliche football talk. They don't give up. They just don't give up on themselves. After the first half, you know, at one point it's 17-7. You're like, boy, this is, if you're a Carolina fan, you are confident. Denver's being outplayed. They're just the inferior not so fast. They're not just so quickly the inferior team. They don't give up on themselves. They continue to play hard all game, and the defense is so special that it catches up. And my big takeaway from the game, more than anything, and they discussed this on the broadcast, John Elway, no one's infallible. And John Elway, no one's above criticism. But I'll tell you what, talk about a guy who deserves the benefit of the doubt going forward. I mean, it's unbelievable. You get to the Super Bowl 3 years ago with a team that's all offense and no defense. You get back the year after, or 2 years later, get back to the Super Bowl, incredibly difficult to do, with a completely different kind of identity as a team. It's all defense and no offense. You then start a quarterback who's never thrown an NFL pass in his career after using kind of 2 quarterbacks the year before, losing the guy you've invested time and resources in Osweiler, who you thought was going to be your future, I guess, losing Peyton Manning, maybe the greatest regular season quarterback of all time, and he comes in and helps you win in the Super Bowl. And you win a game like that week 1 against a highly motivated team that people like Stephen A. Smith think have a very good chance to win the Super Bowl. You got to give it to Elway.
Well, I got to give it to Elway, respect him, but it is just one game. Let's not put on the pom-poms too quickly. We want to give respect to the Denver Broncos and recognize the fact that they should be able to win the AFC West. There's still Pittsburgh and New England in the AFC, which we will discuss a little bit later on in the show. But let's also not absolve Carolina's defense from this equation. You had a 10-point lead entering the fourth quarter. You're the reigning NFC champions. You just got smacked around in the Super Bowl. Your offense gave you a 10-point lead. You were up 17-7, even though Cam, costly interceptions, you've got to think about that. Bottom line is that this defense should have been able to do a better job. A guy by the name of Trevor Siemian, who we both concede was more than respectable and impressive, particularly with his poise. Bottom line is, this is a guy that was drafted in the 7th round of 2015, okay, didn't throw a pass the entire year last year. In his first regular season game of his career out of Northwestern, okay, shows up in the Mile High City for the reigning defending Super Bowl champions, opening night for him against the team they met in the Super Bowl, who had all of these guys returning in their starting lineup outside of Josh Norman. And you lose a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter.
Don't you have to credit Kubiak for that? I mean, you tried to give him credit earlier, and Kubiak is an Elway hiring that looked a little bit at the beginning like, what are you doing? Because you're hiring your boy, and he's brilliant enough to make lemonade out of lemons.
Well, he's smart enough to listen to Elway. Congrats to him, because I damn sure never saw that stuff in Houston. Again, I'm not going to throw the pom-poms out there too much on that level, but again, I'm going to get back to Carolina's defense. Because I'm thinking about Carolina's defense. Absence of Josh Norman, what are you going to be able to do collectively? Their front 7 is elite. We understand that. We get that. They can get at the passer. They can defend the pass. The interior in between the seams, we know they are no joke with Kuechly and Thomas. We get all of that. But if you got a 10-point lead against what essentially amounts to a rookie quarterback, and you lose that game, that is not a good thing. That is not a good thing.
Okay, they lost the game, but Stephen A., again, they lost the game and Kubiak ices the kicker on a field goal that would have won the game. The game was won, and Kubiak pulled that out of his hat,
I'm talking about the 10 points you got. I'm talking about the 11 points you gave
That's
up.
football. It's not like, the other side has players, too. They have a plan,
stop
too.
It.
Your defense...
I mean, what are you going to say next? That there's cloudy skies when it's going to rain? I mean, who the hell doesn't know that? Of course there's other guys on the other side.
The Panthers were beating
mean?
the Super Bowl champions and then put themselves back in position to win the game.
They gave up 14 points.
Well, yeah, you're going to give up points sometimes.
To a rookie quarterback in the fourth quarter. That's a problem.
What's the final score of the game, Stephen A?
It doesn't matter. It's 21-20.
Wasn't a shootout.
I know that. But you don't give up a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter to a rookie quarterback. That's all I'm saying.
Well, occasionally it happens, and we've seen it from rookies.
I got it. I remember that. I remember that, Max. Occasionally it happens. No big
We've
deal.
seen this. We've seen this from rookie quarterbacks in recent years. It's not like the old days where everyone had to hold the clipboard for years and years, although, Siemian did it last year.
A rookie seventh rounder?
Yeah, not exactly a rookie.
What do you mean he's not exactly rookie? He didn't throw a pass in a regular season until last night.
He still had experience in the league, and we've seen.
He was practicing. He practiced. That what you gonna come with me next? Oh, he practiced a lot. He had a lot of practice time. Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yes, it makes a difference.
I thought that we said, look, practice. You can't emulate game situations, particularly when you're going up against an elite team. What happened to that notion? You trying to tell me you're throwing that out the window now?
He played well. He's on an excellent team. They fell down. They didn't quit, largely because of their defense and Kubiak's offensive scheme and the fact that Siemian played very well. They came back. Ultimately, they should have lost the game on the field goal. Kubiak also pulled that one out.
Max, you're such a beautiful man, Max. You're just such a nice guy. I mean, Mr. Tony Robbins himself, all enthusiastic. Let's see the silver lining. Let's find it there. Really? That's what you're doing? Oh, yeah, give him credit where credit is due. Oh, please. The defense needed to show up.
You lose a great game, which this was the game everyone was waiting for in the Super Bowl last year, that you lose a great and thrilling and nail-biting kind of game. Week one to the defending Super Bowl champions who have shown in the last several games to have your number, and it comes down to a kick that you made. That's a crime.
I want to address a point that you just made. This was the Super Bowl we were looking for last year, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you just said?
Yes.
Well, who was the quarterback last year? It happened to be somebody named Peyton Manning. You're not expecting that from Trevor Siemian.
Well, here's the question. Okay, here's the question for you. And you kind of hinted at it earlier.
And make sure it's not a rhetorical one. Go ahead.
We all thought last year that, look, the quarterback play can't get any worse for the Broncos. And then when Siemian's name comes up, it's like, wait, he's starting? The quarterback play somehow just got worse for the Broncos. Then we saw the game last night. Let me ask you a question. Based on what you saw from Osweiler and Peyton Manning last year, and it's a very small sample size, but based on what you saw from Siemian last night, has the quarterback position gone down, stayed the same, or gone up a little bit for the Broncos?
Are we philosophizing now? I mean, I don't know. 1 minute you're 1 minute you're Mr. Motivational, Mr. Tony Robbins himself. Now we're philosophing. I don't understand it, Max. At the end of the day, he's a. Excuse me. What's the question? I couldn't remember. I mean,
quarterback play.
What the point?
Quarterback play. Has it gotten better or worse from last year, based on what you've seen so far?
Based on what I've seen so far, it looked better for one night. No doubt about that. But hold on, wait a minute. How is it that y'all micro? What you laughing about, Molly? What's that? I mean, what you talking about? I'm just saying.
Your Honor,
what's the deal?
I rest my case.
There is no resting of your case. You don't have a case. Trevor Siemian is a 7th-round pick who didn't throw a single pass in the regular season of 2015. He threw his first regular season pass last night. And you're against the Carolina Panthers, and you hold no accountability towards their defense.
But the quarterback play's gotten better, right?
Oh, Max is already getting under your skin.
Please.
This is good stuff.
You know what? He likes to do that too. It's all right.
Hey, props to Mark Schlereth, who sat here yesterday and said the Broncos would win.
Oh,
and all of us kind of look.
He lucked up.
Why are you so angry?
He lucked up. Hold on. Wait a minute. I'm a very happy man. I'm just because people annoy me doesn't mean I'm not happy. I'm not angry. I am jealous. I am jealous of Max. Because he's in L.A. and I'm not. But other than that, I'm fine.
Max is alone. We're together.
I had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning today, all right?
Oh, love you too, Stephen A. All right, including the playoffs, the Broncos have now won 6 straight.
He's complaining about getting up 4:30.
Yeah,
Oh, really? We're so sorry. We're so sorry for you, Max. We're so sorry. Oh, please.
Over that same span, the Panthers are 3-3. It's that time. Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott are poised to become the franchise's first Week 1 rookie quarterback running back combo in the starting lineup since Roger Staubach and Calvin Hill in 1969, folks. Trent Dilfer had this to say about Prescott this morning on Mike and Mike.
You might be talking to the biggest Tony Romo fan in the world.
Okay.
Literally, I'd put myself, if there was a Tony Romo fan club, I would be in it.
Okay.
I think he's fantastic. I don't know if he'll ever see the field again for the Dallas Cowboys. This kid has something special to him, and it's not just the stats in the preseason. This is a kid that carried a program in the SEC on his shoulders, that no moment was too big for him. Had one person who's worked very closely with Tom Brady for a long time, who also got to work with Dak Prescott, say they have the exact same competitive temperament. That Tom Brady, Dak Prescott, same guys as competitors.
All right, so Trent Dilfer, president of Tony Romo's fan club, thinks that his
Charter member.
Right, his future with that team could potentially be over. Tim Hasselback in the house. Good to see you. Thank you for being with us.
It's good to be here in studio with Stephen A.
Right, and you get to be in Max's
Always
chair.
honored and privileged to have you on the show, Tim.
The fact that you're here, we're here together.
It's so nice. Isn't it nice having everyone in the studio and we're really bonding together?
Should do more of it.
I know. It's so good. Want to get lunch after?
Ganging up on me. Ganging up on me. Let's roll. Let's roll.
What's your reaction to Dilfer's comments?
Well, I think there's actually a lot of truth to what Trent is saying, in the sense that Tony Romo has got a broken back, right, for lack of a better way to describe it. He's had a long injury history throughout his career. And here's the truth of the matter is, let's say, for example, let's just say he's missing 8 games, okay? And the Cowboys are 1-7.
Okay.
Does he come like what? Like, you coming back in and playing a guy that maybe isn't totally healthy? No. Okay, now let's say they're 7-1. Well, if they're 7-1, chances are Dak has played great. They're rolling, and you don't upset the situation at that point.
Right.
I actually think there's more scenarios where they continue to go with Dak rather than them being, a 4-4 team. His play has just been okay. And so now you're looking for Romo to come back in and give you a spark. And I agree with Trent. I think Tony Romo is great. I think he's a great player. But he's injured a lot. This is a significant injury. And I think a lot of people, myself included, anticipate that Dak will play well.
That was a great point.
I like you, Tim. Yep. And I like Trent Dilfer a lot.
Here we go.
But you like him a lot, and just like me.
The love is equal. The love is equal. Okay, the love is equal. Here's my problem with y'all. First of all, you have to define greatness for me, because I think Tony Romo is really good and he can really play. But I also define greatness about how you step up in key moments, and there are a lot of times that he has not. There are times that he has, but there are times that he has not. And we certainly don't have any history to point to where the Dallas Cowboys have been exceptional, with the exception of a mulligan here or there when they went 12-4 a couple of years ago, and that was a catch in Green Bay that wasn't a catch, etc. But the bottom line is, Tony Romo has been very, very good at times, and there are times where he has not been very good. So to me, when you say greatness, I disagree with that.
So who would you rather have better than him? Because you reference, listen, that's a catch, and you know it's a catch.
Yes,
by
I
guess,
agree with
okay?
that. That was
so
a
it's
catch.
like, so is he not great because of that?
No,
listen,
I'm not saying he's not great because of that.
The game in Seattle, I just, with the fumble, snap, I just, like, to me, I'm judging it based on how hard the position is, doing the things that he does that other guys can't do.
We can get back to that, because I know Max is chilling in L.A. and I don't want him falling asleep because he's so comfortable in L.A. and all of this stuff. But let me say this. The other point that Trent made is this. He talked about how he doesn't think Tony Romo's coming back, but he pointed to Dak Prescott. I know Dak Prescott carried the program on his back. I get all of that. But that don't mean you're going to succeed in the NFL. I'm confident that he will, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen, A. And B, and more importantly, I agree with Trent Dilfer, but only for different reasons. I think Tony Romo's done in terms of the Tony Romo we knew in those key pivotal moments, because I think his health is highly questionable. I think he's 36 years of age. He's had 3 back injuries in the last 2 years, and he's playing a quarterback position. I just think it's one of those situations where Tony Romo's durability is such a question mark that it compromises his availability, and he's never going to be the same. That's my opinion.
So you think it's more about Romo than about Dak?
That's right.
And let me tell you something. I agree with you. And now, I don't, but what I would say is, I don't think Dak's going to fall on his face.
I agree with that, too.
Dak falling on his face would change the dynamic of that. And I think that's the key. I think Trent,
I got
a little excited about it.
Tim, it seems to me that if you look at the way Dallas is structured, though, this is the problem I have with saying, Romo never gets back on the field. Prescott's looked impressive in the preseason. But, let's see what happens when teams in the regular season actually game plan for him. And the Dallas plan seems to be run the ball up, pound it with Ezekiel Elliott. The Jason Witten will be his best friend, a tight end in the middle of the field, a young quarterback. And Des Bryant can make some big plays and all that. But still, for a kind of ball control type running offense behind a great O-line and a very bad defense, at least on paper, to me, it seems as though they're going to be playing from behind a bunch, and they won't always be able to continue to play the way they'd like to play. And in the end, Dak Prescott is a rookie, never held the clipboard even for a year, and is going to be in that situation where they may have to air it out in the second half of games. He may not be ready with teams game planning for him.
I just think, listen, and all of that's true. And listen, every quarterback struggles. We'll see, a point where he doesn't play as great as he played in the preseason. That's going to happen. I guess my thing is, what's the record where Romo gets the job back?
Well, you're looking at the record. I'm not thinking about the record. I'm thinking here's where I'm coming from. I'm thinking about what are we going to see from the Dallas Cowboys with or without Dak Prescott. When I'm thinking about Ezekiel Elliott. I'm thinking about Alfred Morris. I'm thinking about Dez with Terrence Williams, Jason Witten. I'm thinking about that offensive line. I'm thinking about the defense. I'm thinking about all the parts that are around you. Tony Romo is going to be healthy enough to get back in the lineup. But if the team is flowing, okay,
they're 6-2.
If they're above 500.
And I know you're talking about the record, but I'm saying Tony Romo appears to be so fragile. If the team is vibing with Dak Prescott, let's say, for example, they're 4-4.
Yep.
4-4, 500 team. But it's because their defense stinks. But Dak Prescott and that offense is dropping 28 to 30 a game. What, are you gonna mess that up? No. Because Tony Romo, with his $55 million in guarantees, is due to come back in the lineup? I mean, please, he could be in that helicopter with Jerry Jones flying around wherever, but he don't need to be back in that lineup. That's what I'm saying.
I'm with it.
I agree with that. I mean, and that's why what Trent's saying, when you first hear it, you go, what are you talking about? Like, he's Pro Bowl caliber quarterback not getting his job back, like we're overreacting. But I just think that there's more scenarios where that's the case than there are that's not the case.
I think that Trent is pointing specifically to Dak Prescott's potential performance.
Well, listen,
I'm looking at the health of Tony Romo and saying
and age.
And age, and I'm like, why do we need to go through this roller coaster like we've been prone to do in the past? Now we've got a backup. I mean, if Dak Prescott's giving you anything, I mean, hey, look. Tony Romo, listen, you got to prove that he's healthy. We can rely on you. And how can you prove that in the game of football? I don't think you can.
Yeah.
Listen, if you look at the schedule, Tim, you got a game against the Giants. They could win it. They could easily lose it. You got a game against Washington. That's not unwinnable. A game against the Bears, not unwinnable. A game against the Niners, that's a winnable game. They don't really have any games in the first 4 weeks that on paper look like, well, they're definitely going to lose that game. But then the schedule gets much tougher against the Bengals and the Packers. And all of a sudden, if Romo's getting ready to play and you're coming off 2 really tough games, and let's consider them losses, it may be as much about the momentum at the moment and what Dak Prescott looks like at the moment Tony Romo is available, as it'll be like, what's their actual record? They could be 3-3, 4-2, or 2-4 after 6 weeks. And depending on how Dak Prescott looks at the moment Romo's ready to play, that may really be the factor. How's the team going? How's Prescott looking at that moment?
There's no question. Eric Mangini, former friend of the show here, probably still a friend of the show, used to always say, look, coaches get fired on when they win and lose games. You know, you win your last 6, chances are you keep your job. There's no question that that's the case. But I just, look, if they're 4-0, the Dak Prescott, fan club that Trent's going to start that one too. You know what I mean? He's going to switch. He's going to be the charter member there.
But that was a really strong point. More scenarios potentially where Tony Romo would not return than where he
Nothing in life worse than Cowboy fans.
All right. On that note, Tim's sticking with us. Yes, there are. Brandon Marshall joins Colin Kaepernick in his protest, while the Seahawks plan a protest this weekend as well. We will discuss when First Take returns. After Colin Kaepernick sat during the national anthem, the question was, will other players follow suit? And Broncos linebacker Brandon Marshall did just that last night.
I think that's what it's really about, to create a dialogue, to be able to talk so we can hopefully create change, and a lot of the stuff that happened in the summer, the police brutality and things like that, I think that sparked, a conversation, that sparked things. So we could talk all we want, but, actions speak louder than words. So when he actually took a kneel, when he sat down, he got people thinking, oh, hold on now, what are you doing? And then after that, he was able to say everything he felt and everything he meant. I thought about it for a couple of weeks, man, because as you see, the Arizona game, I didn't do it, I thought about it for a long time, and, I decided to do it Thursday night.
The Seahawks are also planning to get involved with a pregame demonstration of unity. Nate Boyer, the former Green Beret who spent last summer on the Seahawks, gave a hint as to what the team might do. Boyer said in an interview with Fox Sports Radio, standing together this Sunday is key to making progress. What the team will do is a powerful sign of unification. Tim Hasselbeck still here with us. What's your reaction to all this?
I'm not surprised. I think it's... I think players probably saw the reaction that Colin Kaepernick received, and I'm sure that was kind of met with mixed emotion for many players, but I'm sure that there's many players that identified with Colin Kaepernick and what, and the message that he was trying to send. So I think it probably, was empowering, for other players to see that and feel like it's probably something that they may want to get involved in. And so I would actually expect for us to see more of it from other teams.
It's interesting because I've watched this stuff unfold, and just to be clear about my position, Tim, would I have sat down for the national anthem? No. However, we live in the United States of America, and under our Constitution and freedom of speech and the First Amendment, you have the right to do that. And one of the things that has annoyed me about this whole process that has unfolded is 2 things. Number one, Colin Kaepernick, you got a lot of people, our military servicemen and women who honor our country, serve in our country, and honor us all by doing so. Folks were offended because they took it as a personal affront to them, like John Tortorella, Team USA hockey coach, and others. If Colin Kaepernick had just taken his position and not elaborated and enunciated his position about that, I would understand that. But when he specifically states, quote, this is not about the military. I am not directing, my dismay at the military in any way. This is about brutality on the part of police officers against the black community and people of color. Everybody's glossed over that, and they've tried to change the narrative into something it was not about. That's number one. Number two, having said all of that, Brandon Marshall kneeling down last night, others who have done it, like Reed and, Kaepernick's teammates in San Francisco and others, we have to get to a point where now that we've done this, we need to be talking about solutions. We need to be talking about solutions, because just making statements is getting to the point where I don't even blame the Washington Spirit or the Women's Soccer Federation for playing the national anthem before the players came out, because just like it was Rapinoe's right, Megan Rapinoe's right to kneel down during the national anthem in support of Colin Kaepernick, it's the Washington Spirit's right to sit up there and say, well, we'll just play this before you come out because it's a private industry and you have the right to do that. We have to put on, our big boy and big girl clothes and understand that rights go both ways. Folks got the right to disagree just like you have the right to express your position. Listen, what it comes down to is that at some point in time, we need to be big enough to have honest conversations about what really ails us as a society and talk about solutions. The Seattle Seahawks, I happen to know through various sources, I know exactly what they're going to do Sunday, at least to some degree. They're going to be locked arm in arm, white, black, to send a message of unity. That's incredibly, incredibly important. It doesn't gloss over the problems that we have. It still doesn't address what's transpiring within the African-American community, which is what Colin Kaepernick's original cause was. And when Brandon Marshall talks about social injustice, I appreciate him saying that. But we have to talk about, we got to get to a point where we're willing to talk about solutions, because just making statements now, we've made the statements, and we need to make more statements. Doesn't need to be this one, but we need to make more statements to bring attention to it, but the goal has to be solutions, and I'm not hearing enough about that.
Well, you know, I agree with you wholeheartedly, especially when you, and I'm not accusing, you know, Megan Rapinoe or Brandon Marshall for trying to just draw attention.
Not them I.
But I will say at this point now, it does kind of seem like there's just a lot of personal attention that's coming along with it. Brandon Marshall's getting more personal attention for this than necessarily the cause is getting. And I would agree. And I think you look at, you know, Doug Baldwin, the way that he's been, you know, you can tell that he's taking it seriously. He's thinking about it. And they're trying to come up with a good solution. And if what you're explaining is there maybe isn't a better representation than that.
Of unity than that. Let's get Max in, yeah.
I wanted to comment on the idea of protests on 9/11 because I've been supportive of Kaepernick, and not just his right to do it, but the fact that he did it. There's systemic inequality. If you're protesting something, injustices in our justice system, extrajudicial kind of problems with police, it's systemic. There are differences in per capita income and education. We all know why, because of the history of this country. That's all legitimate. The idea of the protest, I'm for not just his right to do it, but the fact that he's trying to start a conversation about those issues and address them. But the thing about 9/11, you know, and if it's locked arm in arm, and if it's some kind of a positive kind of show of unity, that's great. But when I first heard it, and I thought, wait, is this a protest? I got a little nervous. I felt uncomfortable. And while I've often said, even on this show, the most important time to affirm someone's right to do something, to protest in this country, is when you like it the least. That's the real test. Some very unpopular group wants to march. You have to support at least their right to do it. The test is how disgusting you find, how repellent you find their cause. The more repellent, the more you should stand up for their right to do it. But there's something about, and in this case, I'm for the issues that they are protesting. There's something about 9/11 that this was not this was an external threat to our country. It was external. And the idea of somehow airing our dirty laundry on that day bothers me. I suppose I'm saying I fail my own kind of test of conviction in this case. I'm not living up to my conviction that that's the most important time to affirm someone's right to do it. I don't like the idea of it if it's not something that is pro-American on 9/11.
Max, let me say this. I respect where you're coming from. And I'm going to go black-white here for this reason. I respect any God-fearing American outside of the black community for sharing exactly the thoughts that you shared, because when we were attacked on 9/11 in 2001, it wasn't about black, it wasn't about white, it was about America being under attack. I'll never forget, as long as I live, when I saw that second plane go into that tower, I said, oh my God, we are under attack. Somebody has attacked the United States of America. So I certainly understand that. But you also have to understand that when you use the word external, what we don't address enough is that there are a plethora of African Americans in this country who feel like that word external applies to them. They don't feel, we don't feel a part of the American fabric. We don't feel like we're a part of this nation to the degree that we should feel. We don't feel that there's a level of fairness that's exercised in our direction compared to what's exercised in other people's direction. And because of that, the word external is applicable to us, and it's very apropos that you brought that up, because the biggest, when you really get down to the nitty-gritty of it all, what it really comes down to is that you have a large segment of a disenfranchised community in this nation who feels like the word external is applicable to them because America hasn't done a good enough job of being inclusionary in certain respects.
Yeah, I would get in there with this. I read something from Admiral McCraven. If you're not familiar with him, he's a 4-star Navy SEAL.
Yes.
He's the Chancellor of the University of Texas.
Yeah.
He wrote this, and I thought this was pretty interesting.
Sure.
Honoring the flag does not imply that the republic for which it stands is perfect. Far from it. Honoring the flag is our collective commitment that we will constantly attempt to get better as a nation, to improve as people, and to use the freedoms that we have been given to make the earth a better place. And he goes on in what he wrote to reference the fact that the flag marched with Martin Luther King, that it flew in World War II with the Tuskegee Airmen. All of that, it references that stuff and the fact that, no, this is not perfect. It's not perfect at all. But what has happened is there have been improvements in that we should all, and I think this is kind of what the Seattle Seahawks are doing, is saying we're all going to we want to make this better without being disrespectful along the way.
Yeah, I want to address, Stephen, your point about the external. I appreciate that point, and I think it's an important one. And I've been talking on this show about the difference between it's not America, love it or leave it. It's America, love it, so change it. I very much appreciate the idea that there are groups, including obviously and especially African Americans in this country, who feel that they are the other, that they're treated, the treatment of African Americans throughout the history of this country has been as external and not inclusionary. I understand that. But in the case of 9/11, I think that there is, we were talking about yesterday, Professor Michael Eric Dyson, his article right now on The Undefeated, talking about the conflation of patriotism with nationalism. Patriotism is, nationalism is I love my country no matter what. And that's all around the world just because I'm from there and this is my team. And patriotism is something different, more nuanced, more complex, and much more important. And I understand that on 9/11, maybe I am conflating nationalism with patriotism. But I think if there's a time to do that, it's on 9/11. And again, I may be failing my own kind of personal test of the conviction of your belief in people's, affirming the right to do it. But it doesn't sit well with me on 9/11 if it's something that's protesting in a way that shows the world we're airing our dirty laundry for the world. In one way, it shows you the strength of our institutions and democracy and society, but I still don't like it.
Well, listen, you have every right not to like it, but you have to understand that black folks have every right not to care because of what black people have to go through in this nation still. It means that we're on opposite sides of the fence in terms of our thinking based on our experiences. You didn't do that. You didn't do that. A lot of white folks didn't do that to black folks in this nation. But there's a history of victimization that black folks can legitimately tie ourselves to. Now, it doesn't mean you stand still and stand stagnant and don't work to overcome it, which is why I say we need to start talking about solutions as opposed to just lamenting the problem.
But the difference is,
you have to get. But you say 9/11.
The difference is those attacks were motivated by it's a cultural clash. It's a clash of cultures,
we get that.
And in that case, as much as I detest the America, love it or leave it kind of idea, it never made sense to me. In that case, and I'm not saying this is what Seattle's going to do, but when I first heard it, I thought, wait a minute, is that what they're going to do? Kind of protest America on 9/11? In that case, in a contest of cultures and a clash of cultures like that, it could have the appearance that you prefer the other. And believe me, you do not prefer the other in this case.
You do know, you're right about that. We don't prefer the other. Black folks don't prefer the others. It's just that when you are going through what you're going through, a lot of times you can't see the forest from the trees because you're stuck in the rut of what you're having to endure.
And I understand Mac's concern with the date, but that imagery is beautiful because we are a melting pot.
I appreciate you reading that, absolutely.
Yes, thank you for being here with us. I also want to add that Brandon Marshall will continue not to stand, and he is going to donate an undisclosed amount of money to charities supporting this cause. So he's going to put his money where his mouth is as well.
How does he handle the big moment?
You have to take everything into consideration.
Oh,
for what?
Come on, dude.
He sued everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Now we have to watch what's actually happening.
USA.
But, I'm good.
Welcome back to First Take, ladies and gentlemen. For years, I've been sitting on this set for the last 3 years, and repeatedly, through social media and beyond, I've constantly heard people talking about how they would love to debate on this show. Well, you asked for it, you got it. I'm here to announce that effective as of next week, we will be starting a contest where we will take your videos, 30 to 45 seconds, airing 2 videos per show, a video leading into the last segment of the first hour, a video leading into the last segment of the second hour, where we're going to have a near 2-month contest to find out the best female and the best male debater out there. And the winner at the end of the contest gets an all-expenses-paid trip here to Connecticut to spend 2 hours with us on First Take debating on this show. All expenses paid. Not to mention the fact that I'm also going to personally take you out to dinner, and I'm going to provide you with 2 tickets to your local NBA team for whatever game you want for the upcoming 2016-2017 NBA season. The big thing, again, is that you will have an opportunity, if you are that good, to come on this show and spend the vast majority of the 2 hours debating with the crew and yours truly. You asked for it, you got it. I will provide details next week. The contest will begin Tuesday. Get ready. You'll be sending in your videos to First Take. We'll hash all of that out with you. But for those of you who watch First Take, and we definitely appreciate your support, I've heard all the chitter-chatter enough. You wanted to debate your man? My wish is your command. Buckle up. I hope you're ready. To the men and to the ladies, whoever's the best in each gender, it will be 2 winners, a male and a female. On separate days, you will both be allowed to come in here for 2 hours to spend the day with us debating on First Take.
Yeah, and by the way, don't get overly brave. I know just because I hang L's on Stephen A every day, it looks easy.
Whatever.
It's not so easy. I mean, for me, it's easy, but not for most people.
Let me just say this, though. I want everyone to know, when we go on this road, we get to meet a lot of our fans, and we have amazing First Take fans that are so loyal and watching us every day. We appreciate them. But this was Stephen A's idea, and I want everybody to know that he came up with this. This was important to him, that he wanted them to get this opportunity, and I'm just so excited we're doing this.
That's why Stephen A's smarter than me, right there. I mean, this is a great idea, and this is going to be a great opportunity. And let me just tell you guys this. Whoever wins this thing, TV is a lot like sausage. If you really like it, you probably shouldn't watch how it's made. You're going to come in here and you're going to get it done, baby. So this is exciting.
I cannot wait. Our fans are going to bring it. This is going to be awesome. So again, thank you, Stephen A, for getting this started, and we'll continue to give you guys the details. But Mark Schlereth here with us. Want to get into our next topic here. Jimmy G and the Patriots will travel west to face Carson Palmer in the Cardinals. New England might be missing more than Tom Brady, though. Rob Gronkowski's injured hamstring is serious enough that he wouldn't guarantee that he will play in Sunday's night season's opening game. Take a listen.
It boils down to the coach's decision, the medical team, and myself. We'll all get together, collaborate, and see where I'm at.
Someone said you're not 100%.
No, I'm not. Ever since that one time during the practices versus the Bears, I mean, I've just been week to week with a little hammy thing. So just been week to week, day by day. Yeah, but I'm feeling good.
Max, I want to start with you here on this one. What do you think? Should the Patriots sit Gronk against the Cardinals as a precaution?
Absolutely, they should sit Gronk.
What?
And I realize that it's not a given that they go to the playoffs this year if they're like 1-3 after week 4. I still think they probably make it, and I think they'll be better than 1-3. But if you look at the schedule here, if there's a game you want to write off early, or any game at all this season that you think, look, we may lose this one. If you're a Patriots fan, it's at Arizona to start the season without Tom Brady. They still have chances. That's how great Belichick is. But that's the one you look at. And when you look at Gronkowski and what he means to that team, and you consider what your short-term interest is versus what your long-term interest is if you're a Patriots fan this year, I think you'll see it makes a lot of sense. Gronk is chronically banged up. And yes, he plays through it oftentimes to one degree or another, but a healthy Gronkowski, when he's on the field, is the difference between the Patriots in recent years winning the Super Bowl or making it to the playoffs and then having an exit. That's really been the difference. When Gronk is on the field, they are many years the best team in football, and when he's not, they're not. It's that simple. So here you have a week where you don't have Brady. You have your toughest game on the schedule, all things considered anyway. He has a nagging injury, the kind that really just needs a little extra time to heal up. Be smart about this if you're the Patriots. Sit Gronk and give yourself the best chance to win, not week 1 or week 2, but the Super Bowl this year.
Well, you could say that, but as far as I'm concerned, there's 16 games in the regular season. Every game counts. The New York Jets are in the division. Obviously, you can't take them for granted, regardless of New England's history. You look at the AFC, the power structure within the AFC, you can't ignore that. More importantly, you're looking at the development of Garoppolo, and you're looking at the addition of a new tight end in Martellus Bennett, who has a new system to learn, Max. So when I look at it, Max, Mark, my mentality is that, excuse me, if he can't play, I'm certainly not supporting him going on the field hobbling and limping or whatever. But if he can play the game, damn it, that's what you get paid to do. This 2 tight end set that New England runs, it's pivotal to their success. I mean, what are you going to do, throw Julian Edelman there or somebody else? You don't want to expose other people unnecessarily to the potential injury that they can incur with Gronkowski's absence. Even if you have to put him out there as a decoy, you play Rob Gronkowski. This ain't the NBA with 82 games. This ain't hockey with 82 games. This ain't baseball with 162 games. This is the National Football League. It's 16 games. And I don't give a damn what level of success New England has enjoyed in the past. You play this man. You put him out there on that field if he can go. If he
You're
tells
likely
you can't
to lose
go,
anyway, Stephen A. You're going to burn that.
Why?
You're going to burn that week 1. Well, look, you
Why
look at
you
the
likely
schedule.
to lose?
You're hosting
Likely?
the Dolphins. You're hosting the Texans. You're hosting the Bills, or you're on the road against Arizona to start without Brady. Those are the 4 games without Brady. The one you are most likely to lose is this one, and it just so happens that if you sat Gronk for this one, are you conceding the game? Not exactly, but you're lessening your odds. You have a better Gronkowski.
If you think that they're not conceding a game because they're not playing Rob Gronkowski, you have paid no attention to the Patriots while you were living out in Southern California all of these years.
Bennett.
You
It's not like they don't have another tight end.
Can I hear from the Super Bowl cap here?
So here's what I look at. You know, there's an old adage in the NFL, you can't play injured, but you got to play hurt. That's baloney. You got to play injured. And you know what? Beyond that, you have to play well injured. And if you can't play well injured in this league, guess what? That's why the careers are 3.4 years. Because the guys who can't play well injured, they don't get to play. So you better show up and play. You're going to the #1 team in the National Football League that blitz, from a blitz standpoint. They are a sub-package team, often using 7 DBs. You do not want to get into light formations, into 3 wide formations. You want to have a 2 tight end formation. You want to be in line, and you want to be able to orchestrate from that because they're a smaller group when you do that. Buchanan, their middle linebacker, wears number 20. He was a safety that plays middle linebacker. You want to present to that opponent a heavy type of formation that you can still throw the ball out of. If Rob Gronkowski is, put a percentage on it, if he's 85% Rob Gronkowski plays, the only way he doesn't play is if he just flat out can't get it done. If it's that bad an injury to where he can't move, then you can't put him out there. But if he's just a little bit tweaked and he's going to be, you know, he's going to be a little sensitive, but he's got to go out there. You've got to go out there.
But Tim, if he was a little tweaked, I agree with that. I agree with that.
Oh, hold up, Max. Listen to what Max said, Mark. Oh, they're not. They're probably going to lose anyway. Who says that about the Patriots other than Max Kellerman? Who says something like that? Oh, they're probably going to
lose
anyway. Really? I mean, the Patriots.
The odds makers say it for this, like, you know,
stop
the
it. What
public.
odds makers say that?
I just say
the majority of people in the country right now.
I just say with a young quarterback, he's not a rookie quarterback, but he hasn't played. With a young quarterback, and you've got the ability to run the ball, you've got the ability to show the 2 tight end formations, you've got the ability to explode out of those 2 tight end formations and have great matchups. Martellus Bennett is a great matchup at the tight end against defenses, and so is Rob Gronkowski. I just believe if he is even close to being right, you play that guy.
Tim, I agree
regardless.
with that. Tim, I agree with that. If he's a little tweak, whatever. But from what I'm hearing from him, you know, you got to I read into it what the athlete is saying in terms of to what degree they are compromised. For Gronkowski to acknowledge it plainly the way he's doing, to me says it's not just a minor tweak where he's 85% or more. It's bothering him. It's affecting the player he is. And my point is, no, you never want to concede a game. But when you look at this schedule, the injuries right now, a guy who's chronically compromised, who's, when he's compromised, has compromised the fortunes of the Patriots. That's how important he is. You have a chance to sit him down right now, and that increases your chances to make the playoffs and win a Super Bowl.
See, this is where you get real slick. Nobody's acting like Rob Gronkowski is damn near walking on one leg, and we're saying throw him out there. That's the impression Max gives. It's like he's a heartbeat away from
what he
crutches.
said.
You know, that's what Max is trying to do.
Usually
Nobody's
these guys
saying
don't
that.
even acknowledge it if it's a little thing.
We all know that if the guy is in real bad shape, you don't play him. The point is that if he is ready to go, at least like you would say, 75% and up, you put him out there. You got a game to play. It's the NFL. 16 games. What you mean?
We don't know. There's no way to put a percentage on it.
Then why are you definitively saying no?
75%.
Then why are you definitively saying no?
Because
what, you want to give him a massage and a pedicure too? What do you want? What do you want him there?
If I could, if I was a Patriots fan and I could give him a massage and a pedicure, it means he'd be healthy. That's what I do for
Max,
Gronkowski.
new contest. That could be your contest.
That's right.
Yeah, Max
That's
is
right. Max is going to give you a massage and a pedicure. That's right.
I hate the Patriots. I don't want them
right now. I am sending my video in right now.
Let Max do that. Look, Max, throwing a pedicure. I forgot to add that, a pedicure and a manicure from Max Kellerman.
That is outrageous. I would never do that to a football player unless it was Beckham or Eli or someone like that. Then I would have to think about it. But absolutely not for Gronkowski.
Oh, that was good. We'll leave it there.
It's the next game, which makes it the most important game. We can't get caught up in personal vendettas. We just want to win.
Newton's fastball caught for the touchdown.
Welcome back, KB.
Ball popped up into the air and intercepted.
He's showing his inexperience a little bit.
Newton right pylon. Touchdown. Carolina Panthers.
There was no place to go.
And he's limping gingerly.
Siemian sets up the screen. CJ into the end zone. Touchdown, Denver. Newton takes a snap, looks to throw the slam, is tipped up into the air, and going to be intercepted. Anderson to the goal line, and Anderson has a Denver touchdown. Snap placement, kick on the way, and it is wide left. And the magic ain't done here at Mile High. Denver starting this 2016 season in grand fashion.
The Broncos beat the Panthers in their Super Bowl rematch last night, but the headlines are focused on the multiple headshots Cam took from the Denver defense. Several Panthers came to the defense of Cam after the game, but Newton himself, he took the high road, saying it was not his place to question the officials, and we didn't lose the game because of lack of calls. Mark, what should have happened with Cam last night taking those headshots?
Well, there were a couple of questionable calls that, I would look at and say, okay, I'm okay with them not throwing the flag on that. But there were certainly a couple of hits that should have been flagged. There was one that was flagged, but there were several that should have been flagged. And if that's what you're talking about, when you keep preaching to us as an NFL that player safety is paramount,
yeah.
Listen, there are certain guys that don't get they are not afforded the same protections that other guys in this league. You can't tell me if that was Tom Brady that there would have been multiple flags on all of those. Of course there would have. Cam Newton is one of those unique athletes that I think you get mesmerized by a referee, as a referee, by his athleticism, the fact that he ran the ball 11 times, probably 8 of them designed runs. He's unique. And because of his size and because of his stature, you allow the play to run a little bit longer, and I think you get caught up. I think that's human nature. The same exact thing happens to Ben Roethlisberger in the pocket. That guy takes shots that Tom Brady would constantly get flagged for. Peyton Manning back in the day would have been flagged for, that they don't flag hits on Ben Roethlisberger. And I think it's the size, I think it's the stature, I think it's the escapability and what they've done in the past. But yes, I agree with Cam Newton, and I applaud Cam Newton for his post-game press conference and not blaming that loss on those hits. Certainly, there's an effect there. Certainly, there should have been some of them that were flagged, but they missed. This is an extension of the preseason. Week 1, Week 2 is an extension of the preseason, and it was for the referees as well.
Well, Mark, let me take this to another level, and I can't wait to hear from you and Max on this point. We need to understand that they're coming after Cam now.
Sure.
They're coming after Cam. I mean, you literally have cats who want to hurt him. You know, the dabbing, the celebratory, the celebrations and all of this stuff. The fact that he's big and athletic and doesn't back down, comes right at you, willing to give a lick as much as he's willing to take one. I thought that Darian Stewart, that should be a huge fine against Darian Stewart, the free safety for the Broncos. There's no question in my mind about that. Brandon Marshall wasn't so sure about him. Not Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware, not that one. But there were a couple of hits. There should be some fines coming down the pike. There's no question in my mind about that. But to me, that's a bit obvious. I'm a bit disturbed by it because they're treating him like the modern-day Shaquille O'Neal or football's version of Shaquille O'Neal. Except in basketball, there's less physicality, not to mention the fact that, again, even though Shaquille O'Neal was taking licks at the time, he was also capable of giving them because basketball allows you to do that to some degree. In Cam's case, when you're back there dropping back the pass or scrambling in the pocket, you're not in no position to hit somebody, but they're definitely in a position to hit you. What I'm saying more importantly than anything else is this. I think we need to look at Cam, too, in this respect. He's holding on to the ball a little bit too long. He's taking hits that are unnecessary. Sometimes it's just about running out of bounds as opposed to inviting or creating that contact. There's no question about that in my mind as well. And I think those are the kind of things that we got to look at because I'm looking at guys right now and they just seem to be salivating at the opportunity. They always want to get quarterbacks, but there seems to be a special emphasis on putting some licks on Cam Newton.
Of course there is. And one of the reasons there is because you do get those 8 to 10 designed runs a game. They ran a QB counter between guard and tackle on the left-hand side. That's the only team in the league that runs QB counter. I mean, that's who they are. And so he's big, he's physical, he is really one of the faces, if not the face, of the National Football League. And he's a guy, certainly, that you're going to get more opportunities to hit because he is running the ball. So, guys, do you want to take that lick? You're doggone right you want to take that lick. Of course you do.
Max.
Mark, I saw you on, I think it was Countdown, and you were on our show yesterday.
1 point.
Predicting a 1-point win for the Broncos, and that's exactly what happened, and that's why you're Mark Schlereth.
Yeah, that's right. And that's why I'm going to give both of you guys the opportunity to apologize to me for
Well, this is what I'll say about that, Mark.
Yeah, I think what it should be.
Because no can't do his job.
Dear
I'm not apologizing to you.
That was just your superior knowledge of the game.
Mark, that was just the preamble to my question.
Okay, go ahead.
Here's the thing. They won by a point, even though Cam got him in position to win the game, and they kicked the winning field goal, and Kubiak, erased it because he's smart. Okay, fine, then they still win by a point. Let me ask you this. If the game was refereed properly, because you even admitted earlier, those hits add up. They do affect you.
Sure.
And this is the nature of a full contact sport. There's no crying and this and that, but I'm just wondering about your opinion here. If it was called properly, do the Panthers win the game?
No, I don't think it. I think because I can go back and point to 3 or 4 plays that weren't called holding on Von Miller where he got tackled in the backfield, that flag wasn't thrown. We can look at the hands in the face on 4th down and 21, and Calvin Benjamin initiated the contact with his hand up in the grill of Chris Harris Jr. before Chris Harris reacted. It was his initial contact that created Chris Harris's response to the hands in the face. So there's a lot of things that weren't called properly.
But what I mean is the adding up, Mark, the adding up of the, like in boxing, you can hit a guy low on the hips, not in the cup, right on the hips, on the opposite side of the ref. And even if you get caught doing it after a while and you get a point deducted or something, those add up and the other guy can't move as well. So those helmet-to-helmet shots, you would think, are affecting Cam's play. It's not just not penalized. It's actually making him worse, you would think.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a physical game, and I will tell you this about NFL players, and I'm this way 100%. If I know that I can get away with holding, if I know that I can get away with my hands outside and you're not calling it, let me tell you, I'm going to undress you. That's what's going to happen. And you essentially, as a player, push the envelope. You get as close to the edge as you possibly can, and if they're not calling it, then you continue to push the envelope until they start calling. It's like a pitcher painting the black. You started out an inch outside. If you get that call on a consistent basis, then you move it to 2 inches, then you move it to 3 inches and see if you still get that call. And that's how that works. So if they're not calling it, and they're allowing you to hit the quarterback in the head, that's on them, and I'm going to keep hitting him because that's how I'm going to win a football game.
I got it. I have nothing to add. I've said what I had to say.
Right.
All right.
I've said what I had to say.
Social media
but
apologies.
I will not apologize to you.
Apologies
Because Cano didn't do his job.
On the way.
Mark Schlereth and his superior
call
knowledge
a one-point win.
is
Yes,
sticking
and
with
Trevor
us.
Siemian was outstanding in his responses to turnovers. That's another subject for another day.
That's true.
Yes.
He was.
We're going to talk RG3 next, though. Cool, guys? He makes his Browns debut, but is it a must-win against the Eagles? Someone at this desk thinks it is. We'll discuss. Meanwhile, Sunday, Robert Griffin III makes his Browns debut in Philly against the Eagles. RG3 impressed with his play this preseason, so much so that Cleveland players voted him as a team captain. Cleveland is a 3.5-point road underdog. Mark, how important is this game for RG3 and those Browns?
I think it's really...
Oh, I'm sorry, Max. I'm sorry. I'm supposed to start with you.
Max. I apologize. Go ahead, Mark.
No. Go ahead, Max.
No. I will not talk before Mark Schlereth.
You're going to...
Football out of the question.
Somebody better talk before I start.
Right. That's it. That's a great point by you, Max. Listen, I think it's hugely important for RG3 to come out here and play well. I don't care what you say. You look at this team, one of the youngest, if not the youngest team in the National Football League in Cleveland. I think they have 18 guys. All 14 of their rookies, for crying out loud, made this team. Their roster is turned over. They realize the errors of their ways and their former first-round draft choices. But RG3 is on this path right now to redeem his career. He started off great in Washington, was injured, didn't like the offense. He has done a great job of maturing, of accepting responsibility. Yeah, they have a bit of a diminished squad when you talk about just the pure overall talent, but this is his opportunity to show that he is the quarterback he started out to be, as opposed to the one who got benched, who, his coaches called out on several different occasions. This is a very important start for RG3 to get on that redemption tour and get his career back.
There's no question. I think it's a great start for him. I understand it, but we need to see what he can do. I mean, he got named the captain the other day. That's nice. You still got some play. I mean, having Josh Gordon, even though he's going to be suspended for the first few games, he's not going to be there, but still in all, ultimately having him in that lineup, Duke Johnson in the backfield, we'll see what Kroll and those other guys are able to do. That's fine. Questions about their defense. Question what kind of situation the offense is going to be put in because of the defense. Then you got a new coach, new system, RG3, new home. I think the captain's title was pivotal for him because it's showing that the organization and the players inside that locker room has some faith in him. And what I said to Max yesterday, Mark, was this. Does anybody really sit back and take a time to realize the kind of situation RG3 must have been in last year? He didn't just, it wasn't just that he didn't play, wasn't even allowed to wear the uniform.
Right. Let me just tell you from my perspective, because I have talked to him on a bunch of different occasions, and he's a guy that I have a soft spot for. He was not liked in Washington. And one of the reasons is because he was the ultimate French waiter. We have to be better. We have to block better. We have to do this.
Right.
Nobody wants to hear that from your quarterback. You have to take 100% of the blame when things don't go well, and you have to defer 100% of the credit at that position when things do go well. And he didn't understand that. And we have had these discussions. I remember a preseason game 2 years ago in Detroit where he gave up some sacks, he gave up a couple of hits. People were criticizing the offensive line, and it was him not understanding who was hot and who was not, and who that offensive line had to pick up and who they were turning loose. And he took those hits, and after that game, the post-game press conference, he's like, well, we just need to block it better up front. No. You need to understand who's blocked and who's not blocked, and if you make that mistake, then you have to stand up and take responsibility. And to his credit, man, that kid has matured. That kid has taken responsibility. He kept his mouth shut in a tough situation, like you mentioned, all last year. I, for one, am rooting for RG3 to resurrect his career and play well.
But you know what, and I'm going to let Max get in here. It shouldn't be that difficult week one. And what I mean by that is the Eagles, there's a lot of question marks. Now, the defense, I think, is going to show up and it's going to be exponentially better simply because last year Chip Kelly put him in an untenable situation because of how he ran his offense and wasn't giving the defense any breaks, just threw him to the wolves, time of possession, all of that stuff. The flip side to it is that even though the defense is going to be better, offensively, with the number 2 overall pick out of North Dakota State, Division I AA, his first career start, RG3 needs to show up because that offense shouldn't be able to do but so much against Cleveland.
And by the way, and Max, I'll let you jump in here. And by the way, this is the Carson Wentz Bowl because it was Cleveland who decided, yeah, we don't need that quarterback. We need other things. Yes. We'll move on and get more draft choices. So they're the ones that made that trade so that Philadelphia could get up to number 2 and get Carson Wentz. So this is a Carson Wentz Bowl.
Go ahead, Matt.
I love what you said about RG3, Mark. There's nothing better in sports than watching someone mature before our eyes, a guy who came in riding high and then is humbled by the game and other factors and maybe his own hubris, really internalize the lessons he's learned and become better for it. Who doesn't love to see that? But I think I can't overstate how big a game this is for the Cleveland Browns franchise because this is a winnable game. This is a bad Eagles team with a rookie quarterback with 2 bad ribs. This is a team that is beatable at home. If the Cleveland Browns, without Josh Gordon, because once Josh Gordon gets back, I expect to see real things from RG3. But even without Josh Gordon, with Barnage and these guys, if they can go on the road and steal a win week 1, this is a team that plenty of people are saying is going to go winless this year. Do you understand what the Cleveland Browns franchise means to that area? I mean, they lost their franchise. Art Modell takes them to Baltimore. They lose the franchise, and out of a grassroots movement, this wasn't like orchestrated in some corporate way, astroturfed or something. This was a grassroots movement where the dog pound and these guys got together and demanded that they bring the Cleveland Browns back, and they didn't win, like they lost the franchise, but they were so adamant, so persistent, their passion was so obvious that the league awards them a franchise, an expansion franchise, and they got to keep the history of the franchise. You know, Jim Brown and them, they're not Ravens, they're Browns. It's really, for all intents and purposes, the same franchise. That team, that area loves the Cleveland Browns in a way not all areas love their football team, and they, instead of being rewarded for it, they've been consistently punished for it. For them to go out on the road, RG3 redemption story, and get a winnable game on the road to start the season would be huge, not just for RG3, but for Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. It'd be huge for Cleveland, and I think they have the right guy in place. I think they have the right guy in Hugh Jackson in place, and we know that they have just obliterated. They have been horrible when it comes to first-round draft choices. Well, they've purged all those guys. They've gotten rid of those guys. They're going in a new direction. It'd be a gigantic win for the Cleveland Browns.
No question. Marky Mark, always good to see you.
It's my pleasure.
NFL Live later with Teddy Bruschi.
Yeah, and I'll be checking for the apology.
It's not coming.
Keep waiting.
It's not coming.
This guy, please.
Yeah, no, the field goal kicker doesn't do his job, and I'm supposed to apologize for that? You should have lost by 2.
He didn't do his job twice. He did it once, just not twice.
See what I deal with people even on a Friday. Coming up next, will Dak and Zeke be able to knock off the G-Men this weekend? I think not, but guess what? I'm not debating. The guys will tell you after the break. Guess what, people? It doesn't get much better than this. The New York Football Giants and Dallas Cowboys squaring off in Jerry's world. The Giants open up their wallet, spending over $200 million trying to beef up their defense. On the other side, Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott are poised to become the franchise's first Week 1 rookie quarterback running back combo in the starting lineup since, listen to this, Roger Staubach and Calvin Hill in '69. Oh, Max. What do you expect from Dak against your Giants on Sunday?
Dak's going to get some things done, and so will the Cowboys, but ultimately it won't be enough. Look, this Giants team is better than given credit for, not just because I'm a Giants fan. It's not like I'm picking them to win the Super Bowl, but they were 6-10 last year and had a bunch of losses with 75 seconds to go, which is uncharacteristic of that team. That team generally plays very well in the fourth quarter, especially Eli Manning, And a lot of the reason they were having problems seemed to be clock management, maybe one of the reasons Tom Coughlin lost his job. I expect Eli Manning in the same offense now another year to be better. No more Ruben Randall. Shepard should be a much better route runner. They really improved the defensive line and the corners. They're actually really good on the defensive line and good in the secondary, at least with their corners, maybe even elite with the corners, and let's see how Eli Apple plays, but they're soft at linebacker and they're soft at safety. So the middle of the field with Jason Witten, he should have a big day. Dak Prescott, a rookie quarterback playing behind, who's shown some stuff in the preseason, playing behind maybe the best offensive line in football. I'd say they are. A really good running game, you would presume, with Ezekiel Elliott. He's going to get some things done with Jason Witten. Ultimately, I do not think it will be enough to beat the Giants.
I think it will. And I'm reluctant to say that because I don't want my sister Linda beating up on me. Actually, I'm not fearful about y'all as Giants fans. I have a few Giants fans in my home, mainly my sister Linda, my oldest sister.
Get him, Linda.
And I am worried about her.
I always like Linda more than you.
Linda will beat me down. You like everybody more than me, but that's a story for another day. Here's the deal.
Not true.
In the end, we think about Damon Harrison. You know he can defend against the run. You think about Olivia Vernon. You think about this Janoris Jenkins. We think about the $200 million they spent on the defensive side of the ball. I'm not sure about the Giants' offensive line. I'm not sure about their running game. Actually, I'm pretty sure about their running game. If this game was in East Rutherford, New Jersey, I would be more confident. And I know Eli has a history of beating Dallas in Dallas. I know. I don't underestimate that. But something is just telling me, look, y'all know how much I can't stand the Cowboys, but there's something that's telling me right now that this particular game, I really, really believe. I didn't like what I saw from the Giants in the preseason. I watched their whole game against Buffalo. I was completely disgusted with how inept their offense looked. I think this is one of those games where they're going to have that kind of struggle, and much to the chagrin of my sister, I'm going to pick against the Giants, and I'm going to pick the Dallas Cowboys to win on opening day in Dallas, Texas at Jerry World.
When you talk about the offensive line for the Giants, look, it's been an issue in recent years. When they had their great success in their couple of Super Bowls a couple of years back in that 4-year span, the offensive line was a real strength of the team. And it's not like there was some superstar left tackle that they drafted high. They just played. They were all a bunch of like B-pluses and better and played really well together as a unit. That has not been the case. It's been the opposite in recent years. They've had a real problem at left tackle, especially. I think Flowers may have been the most talented guy in the draft last year, but it really is a skills position, particularly left tackle. He's only 22. He has a ways to go. He got blown up bad in the preseason. He wasn't any good last year. That's going to take some time. It's one of the reasons, though, that you like the Giants offense, where Eli's just getting rid of the ball really quickly. It's one of the reasons that Shepard, a guy who can run much better routes, obviously, than a guy like Randall, is going to be really good for the team. And when you look at how they're going to be able to block in the middle, pretty good. I mean, they spent second-round picks, Pugh and Richburg and these guys, and they're pretty good. They remind me of the kind of offensive linemen that the Giants had when they had success.
Well, listen, you could say that, and we certainly can't deny that. I mean, when you look at Justin Pugh to move from right tackle to left tackle, that worked out for them. I got to give them credit for that. This kid, Richburg, moved from left tackle to center. I got to give them credit for that. They seem to be doing a good job, but we don't see a running game, materializing from it. So if you don't have the running game, I'm looking at this kid, Sterling Shepard, out of Oklahoma. I like him. But at the same time, you're a rookie. What am I anticipating? What am I expecting you to do? Ruben Randall, thank God he was gone because he was running wrong routes, dropping passes. But in the end, it comes down to the same old Giants. Their defense is not stout. It's a bit suspect, and offensively, it's all about Eli in the passing game because of no running game to speak of. And I don't think you win a game like that against Dallas. I know we got to go, so I'm going to leave it go.
Not to put too much on Shepard, who people felt was a steal when the Giants got him, but if he can produce, all of a sudden, the way they treat Odell Beckham Jr., which is to give every bit of resource on the defense to cover him, to bracket him, do it. All of a sudden, that goes away a little bit, and then look out. A lot does, unfortunately, ride for the Giants on a rookie, slot receiver.
I got it.
You know who I'm rolling with in this conversation? The very wise Max Kellerman. We'll talk on Monday. It was a year to forget for Andrew Luck in the Colts. Will they bounce back and make the playoffs this year? The guys will debate that one after the break.
First Take is brought to you by the all-new Audi A4 and Twix. Try both. Pick a side.
Time to make some picks. It should be an interesting race to win the NFC this season. The NFC East looks wide open after Tony Romo's latest injury. The Pack and the Vikings are expected to be top contenders from the North. Arguably, two of the best teams in the NFL are out west with Seattle and Arizona. And Cam and the Panthers are looking to repeat as conference champs. Max, I want to start with you. Which teams will make the playoffs in the NFC?
I'm going almost chalk here. I hate to do it, but Seattle, yes. Arizona, yes. They may be the two best teams in football. I like Seattle to go all the way this year. The Packers with Jordy Nelson back, of course. Who, by the way, they may be the best team in football. Let's see how this pans out. The Panthers, who we just saw last night, should have won that game, but okay. The Vikings, I like to get back, even with a brand-new quarterback in Bradford, because I don't see where else the team has changed very much. They had a lot of success last year. And someone's got to come out of the NFC East. I believe that's going to be the New York Football Giants. Washington, on paper, may be more balanced. I like what the Giants did on defense in the offseason. And again, really, if not for very fluky kind of collapses last year with an older coach who seemed to mismanage the clock, they had 10 wins last year. I mean, that's a 6-win team that really should have won 10 games. So I like the Giants to come out of the NFC East.
I've got Carolina coming out of the South. I've got the Seahawks coming out of the West. I've got that bad man that he is, Aaron Rodgers, coming out of the North. And much to my chagrin, as nauseated as I am, even with Dak Prescott as the quarterback, I've got the Dallas Cowboys coming out of the NFC East because I think the Washington Redskins are allergic to prosperity and their running game is suspect, and I don't know about them right now. And I don't believe in the Eagles, and the Giants' defense has to show me that they've returned to respectability before I'm willing to give them.
Defense?
Excuse me, I know that, but the running game is going to stall a lot of things because they'll engage in clock management and really chalk up time in that regard, Max. Listen and learn, brother. Now let's get to the wild card spot.
Okay.
Arizona is definitely the wild card.
Okay.
All right, my one wild card. I'm going to go with Sam Bradford and the Minnesota Vikings as my other.
Right.
There's no wild card coming out of the South. There's no wild card coming out of the East. I'm going to have the Minnesota Vikings as the wild card in the NFC North, and I'm going to go with Arizona.
You got it. So only one disagreement there. You're going Cowboys, and Max is going Giants. Let's go to the other side here, and the AFC. So the Patriots are, again, heavy favorites to win the conference. Of course, the Bengals and Steelers are expected to battle for a top spot in the North. Can Andrew Luck stay healthy, get the Colts back in the playoffs, and the Broncos looking good last night in their quest for a repeat? Max, start us off again. Who's making the playoffs in the AFC?
Pats are in, as they are every year. So are the Steelers, who, if they get hot, look out, and the defense will be the tipping point, as it is with several of these teams we're talking about. The Bengals are such a well-rounded team, and I really wanted to see what they did if Andy Dalton was healthy last year in the playoffs. I think this is the year they win at least a playoff game. KC is another one. That's a really well-balanced team. The only thing they don't have is a quarterback who can throw it down the field. Denver, and I like Indianapolis. I'm very tempted to take the Jags. They couldn't have had a better offseason on the defensive side, but a 5-win team all the way. Andrew Luck's healthy. I like the Colts.
I'm going with the Patriots, the Steelers, the Broncos, and the Houston Texans. I'm a place I don't feel. I'm just not in the mood to agree with Max Kellerman. I'm liking him less and less. I don't want to agree with him.
Okay.
I'm gonna bet against Indianapolis because of their defense, though, because I agree with him about Andrew Luck. I'm gonna go with the Houston Texans in the South.
Yep.
As my wild card, I'm gonna go with the Kansas City Chiefs out west.
Okay.
And I gotta go with the New York Jets. I think the New York Jets are going to squeeze into the playoffs. I'm thinking the New York Jets and the Kansas City Chiefs as my wild card. I am tired of believing in the Cincinnati Bengals only for their ineptitude, their stupidity, or their undisciplined tendencies getting in the way. They're the most talented team.
Bengals,
but I don't
Jets,
believe in
Sunday. We get to start settling this Sunday.
Well, I don't know about that. It's the first game. We'll see. But I'm gonna believe in the Jets first before the Bengals because I question their discipline, not their talent, their discipline. I question the Bengals.
Yep, that's fair. I still like them over the Jets, and I like them over the Jets Sunday, by the way.
You're probably right, but I'm still not going with them.
I'm just so excited we have real football. Max, have a great weekend. Stephen A., you guys too.